for this tutorial, you're going to just use a wool yarn. I've got some Wool of the Andes yarn here from We Crochet, and that's just a worsted weight wool. So wool's yarns work the best for this stitch because they give it that nice stretch and bounce. And a medium worsted or DK weight. So then you're going to use 2 hooks. So I've got a 5mm, and that's going to be the base of our rib, and a 3.5mm, which is going to start us off for that foundation row. So let's get started. First of all, we're just going to make 3 chains. So the way that I normally start my chains off is just grab the yarn, sort of between your thumb and middle finger and your pointer finger, and then just go in and put your hook through there. Then you're just going to make a yarn over and sort of loop that over. So now you've got like a twist going on, and then just yarn over again and make 1 chain. So that is the way that I just sort of start off my chain stitches, like so. Then you're going to make 2 more chains, so that you've got 3 chains completed. Now you're just going to yarn over, and we're going to make our first foundation half double crochet stitch into this first chain here. So insert your hook into those 2 loops of that first chain, just like so. And now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on the hook, but it's like 2 loops and 1 chain stitch. Now you're going to yarn over and pull through just those first 2 loops of that chain, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through just the first loop, so you've still got 3 loops on the hook. Now you're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, just like so. We're going to repeat that. So now you've got yarn over, so you've got 2 loops, and then this is sort of where our working is going. So we're going to just flip it over onto the back side here, and now you can see these 2 loops here that make like a little V, and so you're going to insert your hook into those 2 loops there. You can see the V, so just into those first 2 loops like so. Now you're going to make 1 yarn over and pull through those loops. Now you've got 3 loops on the hook. You're going to yarn over, chain 1, and then yarn over and pull through those 3 loops. So you're basically making like a chain and a half double crochet at the same time, and then you get this really neat finish on both sides. So we're going to make a yarn over, turn over to the underside, see we've got the first V, the second V, which is where we're going to go into to make our 3rd stitch. So insert your hook through those 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through both of those 2 loops. So you've got 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and just pull through that first loop, so you're making your chain, then yarn over and pull through those last 3 loops to make your half double crochet. So we're just going to continue making foundation half double crochets for the first row. So for this tutorial, let's go 16 foundation half double crochets. However, you can make as many or as few as you like. But yeah, we're just going to continue doing that until we have 16 foundation half double crochets. Alright, so I've just completed my 16 half double crochets, foundation half double crochets, and now I'm going to switch to my larger hook for the base of the ribbing. So switching to that 5mm hook, and now I'm just going to chain 1 as a turning chain, and now we are going to begin our first row of the rib. So what you need to do is firstly make a yarn over, and then usually we would go into these 2 top stitches when we are crocheting, but what we actually want to do for this stitch is to rotate that and have a look at the back, and you can see here we've got like a 3rd sort of horizontal stitch So you've got your stitch horizontal bar sort of at the top and at the bottom, but what we actually want is this one in the middle here. So you're looking at your front 2 loops, reversing it, and then the next sort of horizontal bar here, that is where we are going to make our stitch. So I'll do that again. You're looking into the first 2 and then this back horizontal loop here. You're going to insert your hook in there, and now you're going to make 1 yarn over, pull through that loop and the other 2 loops on the hook. So you've just made your first yarn over slip stitch into that 3rd back loop there. Now you're going to yarn over again, and we're going to move on to the 2nd stitch. So here's the first 2 stitches that we would usually go into, but you're just going to flip it over and look for your horizontal stitches. So you've got 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. And so we're going to go into that 2nd horizontal stitch here. And then you're just going to make 1 yarn over and pull through all 3 stitches. So we'll just go one last time. If you see where you usually go in, flip the work over and see you've got 1, 2, 3 sort of bars, and you're going to go into that 2nd bar here, yarn over, slip stitch, and even if we look at the right side, you can see that rib sort of starting to form. So we are just going to repeat that across this row. Right, so I'm just at my last stitch now, and I want to show you this one because it can be a little bit tricky. But you can see here you've got those 2 loops here and here, and sometimes the last stitch is a little bit trickier. The 3rd loop sort of gets hidden, so what you might have to do is pull your stretch your chain stitch out a little bit, and then you can see in there that 3rd loop is where we want to get to. So we're going to insert our hook into that 3rd loop there. If you found the first row a bit tricky, don't worry, it is a little bit harder because we're going into those foundational stitches, but the 2nd row is usually a little bit easier. So I've just made a turning chain to start my 2nd row, and now you're going to perform a yarn over and have a look at where the 2 normal stitches are. That's where we'd usually go into, but we're again going to rotate our work, and you can see now more clearly you've got this sort of 3rd row of like loops, and that's where we're going to go into. So not these first 2, but onto the back. You can see this quite clear, nice horizontal bar there. So we're going to insert our hook now into that 3rd stitch, make a yarn over and pull up a loop through all 3 of those loops, and again we're going to make a yarn over, have a look at where the first 2 stitches are, and then rotate and look for that 3rd back loop in here, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and again we are just going to rotate the piece, look for that 2nd loop, and that's where we're going to make our yarn over slip stitch. So we're just going to continue doing that for the rest of this row and actually all of the rows. So we're going to keep making those yarn over, back loop, slip stitches, and then at the end of the row we will just chain 1 and continue back the other way. For this stitch, it's really important to keep stitch counts, because when I first started doing it I was dropping a lot of stitches, but if you keep counting just to make sure that you've still got your 16, because it's really easy to miss one at the start or the end of a row, and then you end up with a sort of triangular piece, which is not too great. So just make sure that you count your stitches after every row. But yeah, we're just going to continue doing this back loop only, or 3rd back loop rather, yarn over slip stitches to create this lovely rib stitch pattern. Alright, I've done about 6 rows now, and you can really see this stunning rib stitch start to emerge. It's sort of upside down, but if you look at it from this way, it literally just looks like a knit rib. It's so amazing, and it's got such a good stretch and bounce in it as well. I'm just going to show you how I like to finish off, because you can see the row that you've sort of started or ended with is a little bit bigger than the other rows, because it doesn't have the next row sort of pulling it back. So here's how I like to finish off. Firstly, you're just going to make a chain and turn again, and then I'm going to work a row of slip stitches into that third loop where we were making our yarn over slip stitches. So all you're going to do is insert your hook into, skip the first 2 loops and into that third back loop here, and you're just going to yarn over and pull through both loops to make a slip stitch, and you're just going to repeat that in all of those back loops along this row here until you get to the end. And that's just going to sort of tighten that last row and pull it in a bit so it's not sort of quite as gapey and open. Now if you're working this stitch for like a jumper and you're going to work in the round, then you can just slip stitch the last row to the first row to create that loop, and you can skip this step. But if you are working flat or making a swatch like this, I recommend doing this last row just to neaten and tighten up those edges. And you can just see now how that last row lies a bit more flat, and it's sort of at the same height as the other rows. So there you go, that is how you make this stunning crochet rib stitch. It looks super neat. The edges really like carry over quite nicely. This would be a great rib band for a modern crochet look sweater. It would also be great as like mittens, leg warmers, so it's really pretty. And I hope this was helpful. I'm going to take you through a couple of troubleshooting tips in the last few minutes. So I'm just going to show you a swatch, one of my earlier attempts at this stitch, and you can see here how the stitches have quite a lean, and so like they should be sort of sitting like that, but they're kind of like leaning a lot to the right. And so I think I've worked out that there's a few reasons why this happens. Firstly, the yarn that you're using, you want quite a structured yarn. So in this swatch, I've used quite a stiff rustic style wool, whereas this swatch has an alpaca yarn, which is really quite drapey and light. Alpaca is very lightweight, and so that creates sort of a lean in those stitches, which will, when you block it, it does get a little bit better, but it's still not quite as nice as this camel collared swatch here. Another reason for this is this yarn is a DK weight, so you can sort of see how it's ever so slightly thinner than the caramel collared yarn, and it's ever so slightly thinner than the other yarn. And so I would recommend, if you are using a DK weight, this one was a worsted weight, if you are using a DK weight, size down your hooks. So go for you're going to want to go for a 4.5 millimeter for your body, and then a 3 millimeter for the first row, or even a 2.5 millimeter and a 4 millimeter combination, just to give the stitches a bit more tightness and more texture. So that's a few troubleshooting tips, and like I said, make sure that you count all of your rows so that you end up with an even swatch. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I can't wait to see what you create with this lovely modern crochet stitch.